Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth!
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Welcome, Truth Warriors and Mythbusters, to the Naked Truth Report. We have an exciting show today. We're going to discuss the interplay. I know I said in my promo that I was going to discuss the Flynn deal, the unmasking. Did you guys see Life, Liberty, and Levin this evening? It was fantastic with Molly Hemingway. I think she's fantastic. You know, she has been investigating, and Levin have been examining and investigating this Flynn business, or rather this unmasking and Russian hoax business for the last 3.5 years, right? If you've been watching Fox, you know that. And what we learned from Life, Liberty, and Levine was that what? They knew. Adam Schiff knew that the Russian collusion was a hoax, because we see it in the transcripts that Susan Rice and Samantha Powell and Clapper and Brennan, they all testified under oath that they saw no evidence of Russian collusion. So Schiff was lying to the American people. Mueller spent all that money. These folks knew it was a lie. They knew it was false. That's very, very, very disturbing, wouldn't you say? But what I'm going to talk about today, I know in my promo I said I wasn't going to talk about coronavirus anymore because it's like redundant, but I'm going to talk about it in relation to how it interplays with illegal aliens. And I have a wonderful guest, Lorraine Woodwark. She is the director of Attorneys United to Secure America. Isn't that a fantastic? That organization is a project of the Immigration Reform Law Institute. But before I bring her on, I want to mention an article that I was just reading in Fortune.com, and it's dated April 16th. Yeah, so that was a month ago? California will be the first state to give cash to immigrants living in the country illegally. You notice how they now call illegal aliens immigrants? We've discussed that before. We've mentioned that before, right? How the terms, the words, the usage of words and terms is deceiving and misleading. Okay, California will be the first state to give cash to immigrants living in the country illegally who are hurt by coronavirus, offering $500 apiece to 150,000 adults who were left out of the $2.2 trillion stimulus package approved by Congress. Many Americans began receiving $1,200 checks from the federal government this week, and others who are unemployed are getting an additional $600 a week from the government that has ordered them to stay home and disrupted what had been a roaring economy. But people living in the country illegally are not eligible for any of that money. And advocates, who are the advocates? We know who the advocates are. The advocates have been pushing for states to fill in the gap. Wednesday, Governor Newsom announced he would spend $75 million of taxpayer money to create a disaster relief fund for immigrants living in the country illegally. This is a quote from Newsom. We feel a deep sense of gratitude for people that are in fear of deportations, that are still addressing essential needs of tens of millions of Californians, said Newsom, unquote, who noted 10% of the state's workforce are immigrants living in the country illegally, who paid more than $2.5 billion in state and local taxes last year. Senate Republican leader Shannon Grove said Newsom should spend the money instead on food banks, equipment for students to continue their education online, and local governments struggling with revenue losses. Instead, quote, instead of meeting these urgent needs, Governor Newsom has chosen to irresponsibly pursue left-wing path and unilaterally. This is a decision that Newsom made unilaterally. It wasn't voted on by the legislature, the California. He unilaterally decided to secure $125 million for undocumented immigrants. California has an estimated 2.2 million immigrants. Now we know that number is conservative. California has an estimated 2.2 million immigrants living in the country illegally, the most of any state, according to Pew Research Center. State officials won't decide who gets the money. Instead, the state will give the money to a network of regional nonprofits to find and vet potential recipients. Advocates say that that's the key to make the plan work because immigrants are unlikely to contact the government for fear of deportation. You need to, quote, you need to use organizations that have trusted relationships with these families, says Jacqueline Martinez, CEO of Latino Community Foundation. A group of charities have committed to raising another $50 million for the fund from private donors, potentially offering benefits to another 100,000 people. But that money will have fewer limitations, meaning grants could be more than $500 or less, depending on the cost of living where a person lives. Organizers began raising money on Friday and have raised more than $6 million so far with contributions from the Emerson Collective, Blue Shield of California Foundation, and the California Endowment, the James Irvin Foundation, and Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, and other anonymous donors. And I don't want to read the rest of the thing. I just want to say that, when I had a program, Schools Over Prison. This is when I had the Kathleen Wells Show and I was liberal. You guys remember me talking about that. And I had a program called Schools Not Prisons. In fact, that was the California Endowment's initiative. That was their project. And so I asked them to sponsor, because I was having black men who were in prison do testimonials. And these testimonials were played on the Progressive Voices channel. They're beautiful. In fact, you can go to my YouTube channel and hear them. They're beautiful testimonials from men who were and are in prison, and how they were choosing schools over prison, how they felt that was a good thing, a good initiative. Well, the California Endowment, I think they gave me a one-time grant of like $1,200 or $1,500 or something like that. And then when you go to their website, the California Endowment, you see it's like black. And the other thing is that the California Endowment, the CEO is a black man, naturally. His name is Rick. I can't remember his last name. He's a black man. And then you go to the California Endowment website, and it's like no black folks. They're all like Latinos because why? Because Los Angeles is mostly Latinos. 75% of our schools, the public schools, are Latinos, and we're at 80% of the Los Angeles School District is at 80% at or below the poverty level. So black folks have completely disappeared. When I was driving this morning on La Brea Boulevard early in the morning, who do you see sleeping on the streets? Black folks, black men and black women. And right there on Venice Boulevard, there's a whole street, Venice and La Brea. It's like all these homeless people. American citizens are sleeping on the streets, but you don't see illegal aliens sleeping on the streets, do you? Do you see them? I don't. So I want to welcome Lorraine Woodwark, who is the Director of Attorneys United for Secure America, for a Secure America. It's a project of the Immigration Reform for Law Institute. Welcome, Lorraine, to the Naked Truth Report.
Oh, thank you, Kathleen. I really appreciate being on your show, and I loved your intro.
Oh, thank you. I love having you. The first thing I want to ask you, well, we're going to discuss the interplay between coronavirus and illegal aliens. I may be the only, I'm sure there are a few others, but not many people in the media call them illegal aliens. They call them undocumented workers or immigrants, you see. This is confusing.
That is a shame. Yeah, that is a shame because Justice Sonia Sotomayor last October of 2019 called them illegal aliens at least 8 times during their hearing on the DACA case. So if Justice Sonia Sotomayor can say illegal alien, I think everyone else can too.
That's right. I agree with you. Well, the first thing I want to ask you, why did you decide to immigrate to the United States from Canada in the 80s?
Oh, okay. Well, when I was 12 years old, my parents got the bright idea to go to Eastern Bloc Europe during the 1970s, and they wanted to stay there for 5 months and study how they practice medicine. My parents were both doctors. My mother specialized in tropical diseases and gynecology, and my father specialized in cardiology. They met in Africa, Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe, and they wanted to see what it was like in the Eastern Bloc for medicine. So I spent 5 months of my 12-year-old childhood in a communist country, and I saw the night and day difference. I mean, I saw the beauty of Americans, and then I noticed the constraints that we had living in a socialist country of Canada, and then you see the strict structure of communist countries. And what people went through and the fear, the everyday fear of being judged. You know, you would never see more than 3 people standing on the street corner because the guards could come up with their rifles and arrest you and put you in prison and accuse you of, trying to work against the government, the communist government. I mean, all these constructors. And then every day you would see people line up for a pittance amount of food rationing in these communist countries. I was in Bulgaria, Romania, Eastern Germany, a little bit for Russia, and Bulgaria, oh my gosh, in the Ukraine, and it was the same, it was very much similar to all of those countries behind the Iron Curtain, and it was just terrible. And I realized at 12 years old, and plus we learned in school, what communism was about. I realized that communism is a form of slavery. It is where the government takes and makes all decisions of your life. You are basically expendable. You become the slave of government. You're not a free person. So that's one of my, that's me.
Right. That's a beautiful.
So I applied to become a citizen.
And tell me, but why did you leave Canada?
Socialized medicine. My parents said, if you want to become a doctor, don't stay here because socialized medicine is absolute hell. And I remember, my parents would be doctors and they were very liberal. But at the dinner table, they would go, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. We're being told the Ministry of Health is dictating how we practice medicine. They're telling us who we can help, what medicines we can give our patients. We don't have any autonomy as a doctor. We are forced to do as the government says, and even if we have a healthy patient, we want to save them, the government says, no, that person's too expensive. No, they're not worth saving. Just give them painkillers and end their lives. And my parents objected to that. They absolutely hated it. That was a shock. And the other thing that motivated me to want to leave Canada was that every election season, now I remember I said my parents were liberals, every time there was a vote on the ballot to raise taxes, my parents went for it. And so the little story was I asked one day at the dinner table, and I said, well, why are we voting to raise taxes? Won't that make it more expensive for everybody? And then my parents said, no, we have enough money, we can afford an accountant, but poor people can't. And so if we tell everybody to vote to raise taxes, the poor people would become poorer and more dependent on government. And so that you can see how my parents were liberals. And I thought to myself, don't we, and so I got in trouble and I lost dessert when I said, don't we want everybody to have the same opportunity so they can all become rich? And with lower taxes, everyone has that chance. And my parents said, you're right, but you lose dessert. And so I realized, no, Canada has gone downhill since I've left.
It's gone downhill
Not
since.
because I left, but it has been going downhill.
Yeah, it's been going downhill. So talk to me about your thoughts about this $75 million stimulus package that Newsom has decided to give illegal aliens. The disaster relief fund.
On, for illegal aliens. And I do call them illegal aliens because I was a legal immigrant. And a legal immigrant is somebody who actually applies legally to become an American citizen, and they follow the paperwork, and they go through the process. They get vetted. You make sure you don't have any contagious diseases you're bringing with you. You don't have a criminal background. There's all these criteria, and illegal aliens don't have any of that. They just basically pay a coyote. And it is true, when you cross the border illegally, the only way to get into the United States from the southern border is to pay the drug cartels and the human traffickers, and that's the only way. And my attitude on that, and I'll get to answering your question, is, if it's cheaper and easier to come here the legal way, why are you doing it the illegal way? And why? Is there something you're hiding? And so I do have to worry about that. And my husband did work in testing for weapons-grade materials, and I know during the 1990s and 2000s, a lot of weapon-grade materials were entering through the southern border with the drug cartels. So that is also another problem. So now we're looking at Newsom. So I'll move on to Newsom to answer your question. We have 40 million residents in California, the state of California, and we currently have we are currently in debt. We are the largest state with the largest debt of $54 billion. So Newsom wants to take $75 million and hand it out to illegal aliens. And that the problem with that is you're encouraging and aiding people to continue to live here illegally. Illegal aliens are not allowed to be working. Some of them are working, but they're using American citizens' Social Security cards. And, that's going to cause problems. I had a lady I helped about 10 years ago, and it's really hard with the IRS. She lived in New York, and she worked in New York. She was 5 foot tall, less than 100 pounds. And there was an illegal alien who was using her Social Security number in California. I think it was in Ventura County. He was working in construction. And so he was, had 12 withholdings. So he basically was underpaying taxes using her Social Security number, and the IRS was going after her. And we have hundreds of thousands of Americans every year who get investigated by the IRS because they're not reporting all their income tax. Well, it's somebody using their Social Security cards illegally. Mm-hmm. And so I do have an issue. And when I was listening to your tech workers, our association, the immigration.
Oh, you're cutting out a little bit. I think you're cutting out a little bit. Someone's calling you, but keep talking.
So when you're handing out money to illegal aliens, you're creating a magnet for more people to come into your state.
Right.
You're encouraging them to stay. And we just last week at the United States Supreme Court decided on May 7th, the United States versus Sinanang Smith, this woman who was operating out of a Philippine church. She was encouraging and aiding illegal aliens to basically break the law. She was aiding and abetting them. And she was arrested for that, for basically harboring and aiding criminal behavior, because it is a crime to enter the United States illegally. So it is. She got penalized. So I keep wondering when some of our governors and some of our state legislators are going to be getting in trouble for aiding and encouraging illegal aliens.
Right. Well,
so
listen, I want to say this. But since mid-March, 2.7 million Californians have filed for unemployment benefits. I've had the building inspector for Los Angeles on the show, on the Naked Truth Report, and he informed me that 80 to 90% of construction jobs are held by illegal aliens. Now, these are jobs that Americans, construction work used to be the road to the middle class. Construction work used to be a road to the middle class. And these are jobs that Americans could have. Maybe some of our homeless folks, when I drive down La Brea and see homeless black men sleeping on the street, maybe some of those guys could work a construction job.
I know they would love it. I've spoken to people who are home. I've actually did that before we had the quarantines. I actually went down to Los Angeles and I walked the streets and I did speak to people who are homeless. And you were absolutely correct. There is a very large population of African Americans and other minorities, but not illegal aliens. No, they're all living in Section 8 housing, compliments of the American taxpayer. So you have a homeless person, and they don't have a home because it's being taken by an illegal alien and their family. And these jobs, these are jobs that Americans can and will do. In fact, there aren't any jobs that Americans wouldn't do. If you look at the Great Depression, people did anything they could just to bring money in. So you have illegal aliens are doing two problems when it comes to employment. They're taking jobs that Americans be getting, so that makes getting a job harder. The other thing that illegal aliens are doing is they're suppressing wages for Americans, because an illegal alien doesn't have to worry because they know they're going to get money from the government, or they just pop out a baby and all of a sudden they've got free housing, free health care, free everything, and at the expense of the taxpayer. And they get to work maybe below minimum wage, and so they're undercutting the opportunity for Americans to actually be paid the amount of money that they earn, they deserve. And they're taking away jobs that Americans can be doing. We have over 40 million people, I believe, so far have lost their jobs because of coronavirus across the country. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to see, before we start, catering to foreign interests or even the large corporations in the United States, I would like every American that needs and wants a job to have a job and to have that opportunity before we even hire illegal aliens or keep them on, working in agriculture or what have you, or even in the tech industry.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Belong to Americans.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe America first. This is why I like Trump.
That is true.
People, I think folks that vote Democrat don't understand human nature, don't understand that life is a competition between groups, that racism is a competition between groups. This is, Black Americans are always talking about racism, and yet they don't realize that they're competing with other groups. They think they're only competing against whites. Yeah. And this is what the Democrats did, is that they put blacks in with people of color, all groups. No, blacks are people of color now. No, we're not people of color. You're in competition with other groups, okay? But anyway, before I'm gonna go to break real quick, and I just want to talk about my new sponsor before we go to break, and we'll come right back. My new sponsor is Balance of Nature. That's a good thing. I like it. I've been taking it for about 6.5 months now, and it's given me so much energy. Can you tell I have a lot of energy? I have more energy than I did before. Can you guys tell in my voice? I feel so fantastic. They said that it really kicks in by the 7th month, and I'm like 6.5 months, and today I feel so fantastic. I'm not kidding. So I encourage all my Truth Warriors and Mythbusters to go to my website or go to balanceofnature.com and put in Naked Truth as your code, and you get a 35% discount. It's a good thing. I encourage you to do it, and it also boosts your immune system, which is a wonderful thing at this time of the situation that we're in with this coronavirus, to have your immune system boosted. So Balance of Nature is more than 31 servings of fruits and vegetables. It's 3 capsules of vegetables and 3 capsules of fruits. I take it every day, and I'm telling you, my energy level is like off the charts. No kidding. This is the Naked Truth Report. My guest today is Lorraine Woodwark, who is the Director of Attorneys for a Secure America. And we're talking about the interplay between coronavirus and illegal aliens. We'll be right back with Lorraine. Come on back. Am I on? I'm on. My guest today is Lorraine Woodwark, who is the Director for Attorneys for a Secure America. And wasn't it Kennedy that said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country? So I think I'm paraphrasing. I think I may have gotten it right, maybe not. But you get it. What you can do for your country. So as American citizens, the humanitarian thing to do is to want your other American citizens working, right? American citizens first, right? A Democrat said that. What can you do for your country? You can desire that other American citizens are working and not sleeping on the street. Am I right, Lorraine?
That is absolutely sickening, seeing all these homeless American citizens, and some of them are military veterans as well.
Right.
African-American military veterans, too, who have served our country nobly. And yet this is how our government is treating veterans and American citizens. It's just outrageous.
Yeah, we have to ask American citizens. We should ask Democrats, do you care about American citizens? Do you care about them? Because they're in a precarious position now, being unemployed. How many are unemployed now?
I think there's over 30 million people who are unemployed across the country. And a very large percentage in California.
Right. So tell my listeners what the Attorneys for a Secure America, tell me what your organization does exactly.
Okay. Attorneys United for a Secure America, we actually, I recruit attorneys across the country to file counter lawsuits. We are the only voice for the American people in court. We are currently working on the Tech Workers Court, as I said. We also were involved writing an amicus brief in the Sinanang Smith case, the woman who was aiding and abetting illegal aliens. We're involved in so many different cases across the country. We have so many people asking us to help us with cases. We have only so many attorneys, but we do have attorneys in every state. And we work on cases of a national interest that would be the biggest bang for the buck to help the most amount of Americans. And our goal is to protect Americans because there is no other voice. And we're not seeing it in government. We're not seeing it with our politicians. And so we've taken it upon ourselves to litigate on behalf of American citizens. And currently, talking about COVID and illegal aliens, we have, there's certain organizations, we won't mention them, but they are filing lawsuits to release illegal aliens, many of whom may even have COVID currently, and they want to release them into American communities. How do we get back our confidence? Bring people into our community. They not belong in more people. And
could you repeat that? You were breaking up a little bit. Could you repeat that?
You're broken up.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Lorraine. Why don't we take a call? Can you move in a room where you're not breaking up? And why don't we take a call from Linda now in Burbank? Hi, Linda. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Hi. I wanted to ask your guest, can't U.S. Attorney General Barr sue
Newsom? Yeah.
Can he sue whom?
Newsom.
Press charges on him.
Well, right now the issue is with California state taxpayers, and there is a barrier between the federal government and the states. So where the federal government leaves off, the states are meant to be looking after their citizens, and each state is unique and has unique individual interests. Now, I know when Attorney General Sessions was in office, he did sue California to try and stop voter fraud and voting by illegal aliens. And that case is still working its way through the court system. So to answer your question about Barr suing the state of California for using California taxpayer money, unfortunately not. And you just will watch, along with Harmeet Dillon's nonprofit, both filed cases against Newsom and Antonio Becerra. But just unfortunately, about a week ago, the California Supreme Court said no to their temporary restraining order and no to taking their case. So it's really unfortunate because it looks like the California Supreme Court wasn't interested in looking to see whether or not the state of California can take your taxpayer money and waste it on illegal aliens.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Linda, thank you. Do you have another question?
Oh, useless.
Yeah, they're useless. We know what's going on here in California. We feel it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Oh, we do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Linda, for calling into the Naked Truth Report. So give us an idea, talk to us about one of your high-profile cases that you've worked with.
Okay. Oh, boy, we have lots constantly going. Right now, we currently have the COVID cases across the country. They're the ACLU and Maldiv and all sorts of other organizations who are receiving U.S. taxpayer money for their nonprofit organizations. I mean, I'm sure they're getting money from other sources, but what they're doing right now is trying to file with the courts to have illegal aliens released from detention centers. And just before we go on, a detention center for an illegal alien is completely voluntary. They are voluntarily staying there while they're waiting for their court hearing. If they didn't want to stay, they can easily file paperwork and they can leave the country and return to their homeland while they're waiting for their turn, for their day in court. But instead, we have the ACLU and other organizations filing lawsuits because they want them released into the community. And as I said, there's some concern that all the illegal aliens have masks, they have all the PPE gear, probably a lot more than a lot of American citizens have. And what I'm hearing from people in detention centers who are working there is a lot of the illegal aliens will remove their mask and cough on each other intentionally to see if they can try and get themselves sick with COVID so that they can have some sort of a lawsuit against the federal government saying, look how you abused me by getting me exposed to COVID, when they can voluntarily leave. So there's so many cases. We're trying to be very judicious in the number of amicus that we're filing across the country. We did one in Texas, and that ruled, fortunately, in our favor, where they determined that they were not going to release the illegal aliens. They said they're probably safer staying in the detention center than going out into the public. But then you have Maryland, the state of Maryland, where they released 2 illegal aliens last week, and they're thinking about releasing more, which is really unfair and unfortunate. As you mentioned earlier in your show, that Americans are being told to, be self-quarantined, stay in their homes. They can't leave. They can't do this. They can't work. And yet illegal aliens, they are not made to follow the same rules.
And they've never been made to follow the same rules. Why? Because we're a sanctuary city, Los Angeles. Why don't we take a call now from Ernest in Los Angeles? Hi, Ernest. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Hello. I'd like to ask your guest how to, or if she could give me some pointers about filing a federal lawsuit against the state that sanctuary states are racist against Black Americans.
So that would be
you're absolutely, yeah.
Go ahead, Lorraine. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say you're absolutely correct. Sanctuary state, sanctuary city is absolutely racist against American minorities and American citizens. The only people who benefit from sanctuary cities and sanctuary states are the illegal aliens themselves, and for some weird reason I'm thinking that these politicians are being paid off somehow because they keep doing it over and over again and wanting to allow sanctuary for people who are clearly lawbreakers, who are not making anything safe. In fact, illegal aliens are a danger even to immigrant communities. So this is, there are lawsuits underway, and what I would do is do a web search first. And I can't give you specific legal advice because I am an attorney and I would be in trouble, and the State Bar of California would probably love to take my bar license. But there are organizations out there who are looking. There's probably the California Taxpayer Association, I believe, is probably looking into it. There's maybe some other organizations who are looking into stopping sanctuaries. I think the Sheriff's Department at one point opposed Sanctuary City because it made their law enforcement officers less safe as they went to go and help the public. So there are organizations out there, and I would encourage you to do a web search to see if you can join in on a lawsuit against the state of California.
But I think that, Black Americans don't know this, but I think given the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause, and the Slaughterhouse case, we're supposed to be, and the 1866 Civil Rights Act, we're supposed to be a protected class. Black Americans who are the direct descendants of slaves. That protection has been bastardized or abrogated to other groups. And so,
Right.
yeah, and I don't think that Black Americans haven't won any racial discrimination lawsuits in the last few decades, many decades.
You're absolutely correct.
They haven't won any.
Yeah, no.
And so it's like
No.
we've become like invisible. But all these, the reason the Black Americans who are the direct descendants of slaves, American slaves, are supposed to be a protected class. And so the fact that we are now homeless because illegal aliens are taking our jobs should be a lawsuit. And someone should take it up.
It also
What about the end? Well, I don't know about the end. Yeah.
civil rights laws. I think also we
right, the
need to
civil
file a
rights laws,
lawsuit
yes.
against the Trump administration for not enforcing immigration laws in California to protect Black Americans.
That's actually a good point. The federal government is responsible for federal immigration laws. Now, the state of California doesn't seem to think that they have to follow the laws that they don't like, but let any of us try not to pay our taxes, and boy, the state of California and the IRS will come after us. So you are absolutely correct, and it does upset me greatly because African Americans do need to be treated with more respect. You're American citizens, and you deserve to be treated equally and be given the respect that you are owed. The illegal aliens have no business being in this country, and it just sickens me to see all our corrupt politicians catering to them to the detriment of minority communities and especially the African American communities.
Right. I don't even use the term African American. I say Black American.
Okay, what do you do? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
but that's
trying
okay.
to
That's
make a
okay.
mistake.
Most people, I know it's like politically correct to say African Americans, but
Oh,
I don't use that.
Bottom line is we're being wiped out of this state.
We are wiped out in this state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've been taken for
Definitely.
granted, which is really unfortunate. I think that's absolutely wrong. And I'm surprised the NAACP isn't doing anything. Or
No. All the black
longer
organizations, support democratic policies, and democratic policies are to support people of color, which means everyone who is not white, we're supposed to support. But the other people of color, we're Black Americans are not people of color, we're Black Americans, but they don't have our history. Right. We have a 460-year history in America, and Black Americans who vote Democrat don't understand this. We have a 460-year history in America. We are specifically mentioned in the U.S. Constitution, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, the 1866 Civil Rights Act. We are specifically mentioned in the Slaughterhouse case, Black Americans who are the direct descendants of slaves, and no one brings this up. The Democrats, most black folks continue to vote Democrat. You need to stop voting Democrat. Learn your interests. I don't care if you don't vote at all, if you hate Trump so much. But you definitely should not be voting Democrat because they have bastardized the U.S. Constitution, the 14th Amendment. They have bastardized the interest of Black Americans. So do not vote for Democrats, Black Americans. Are you listening out there? Listen, I want Black Americans who vote Democrat to call in to the show and tell me why you do it. I've said that before, but I don't think they listen to the show, okay?
They're giving our 30 acres and a mule to foreigners.
Right.
Was it 30?
Exactly.
Was it 30 acres? Well, it was 40 acres, I think. We haven't gotten it.
40.
Yeah. But, I grew up in Los Angeles. I know Black Americans used to be a larger percentage of the population. Now you go up and down near Dorsey and they're homeless folks, okay? I graduated from Dorsey. You see homeless Black folks. And right across the street you see a taco stand, okay? This is not cool. I don't like seeing homeless Black people. Do you understand? We've been in this country longer than anyone. And something's wrong with our people, Ernest, my people, to continue to vote Democrat and not progress. That's a problem. That's a problem. But blacks who vote Democrat don't listen to my show. Do they, Ernest? Oh, I think he. Okay, go ahead, Lorraine.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Lorraine. I did my spiel. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, unfortunately, I noticed one big difference when I came to the United States was that your education system is actually very poor for all Americans, and I think that's part of the problem. I think the American education system's been hijacked, so you're not learning. Not everyone is learning the true history and not getting a real appreciation of the United States Constitution, and I think that would enable and empower the black community if they were taught actually what the United States Constitution is about.
Yes, they don't understand.
But if I could give it in a nutshell, I will. It's the only constitution in the world that actually protects the people from a tyrannical government. It's not the other way around. No, in other countries around the world, they do have constitutions, but those are rights given by government. And whatever government gives, the government can take away. But for the United States Constitution, that's completely different. Those are rights given to us by God to every American citizen. It's your contract, and it can't be broken. And what I see right now with our government, with so many corrupt politicians and government workers, is that they are trying to deceive people into believing that they are the ones that have the decision and the power over the people, and that's completely wrong.
Right.
And so I do agree that, there should be a lawsuit, and maybe even suing Trump and saying, hey, you're neglecting African Americans by not enforcing the immigration laws.
Right.
And if you start doing cases like that, I believe our organization will probably be very interested in filing an amicus brief on your behalf. And we've been very successful over the last several years on having successful cases in making certain that immigration laws are enforced, because we need to put Americans first.
Right. So, Ernest, why don't you get your lawsuit started on your own, and Lorraine's organization, Attorneys United for a Secure America, will file an amicus brief. Okay, Lorraine, I really appreciate you being a guest on the show. Why don't you give some information where people can reach your organization?
Oh, well, thank you, Kathleen. Okay, I'll give you two websites. I'll give you the easy one first, the one for the Immigration Reform Law Institute, and that is www.irli.org, and that is the main organization. And then my organization, which is a project of the Immigration Reform Law Institute, is ausamerica.org, so ausamerica.org. And you can go there. The early.org website has a lot of information about our cases, when we're in the news, when we, all the activities that we're involved with. And the AUS America website is a smaller website, but that's basically, we're trying to recruit attorneys, and we're trying to direct attorneys to our website. Everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter how you're registered to vote. If you love America, we would love to have you sign up to become one of our attorneys. And we often have people who say, can you refer us to an attorney that can do this and this? And we will look for an attorney and try and give you some names for an individual, a member of the public. So if you're an attorney and you'd like more cases, and you're finding that your caseload has gone down because of this coronavirus, contact us, get on the list. And we constantly have people asking us about that. I am also, in closing, I'm also on LinkedIn at Attorneys United for a Secure America. So we're on LinkedIn, and I've just started a Facebook page that just looks very bad right now. But LinkedIn, you can go there, and I'm posting articles all the time, and you can definitely make comments and participate. And there's no bad ideas on my articles when you post a comment, and I don't get upset if you criticize me. I'm good about that because I like to be held accountable.
Right. Well, I appreciate you being a guest on the Naked Truth Report, Lorraine, and I'll have you on again.
Well, thank you so much, Kathleen. Yeah.
Yeah, to be updated as to what the latest thing is going on in the illegal alien arena. You see, how do you think this thing is going to play out initially, the coronavirus and all this stuff? How do you think it's going to play out?
Well, I'm looking right now at statistics across the country. Those states that are opening up, it seems like the rates of sickness at this point don't seem to be quite as bad as the states that are staying closed. And I have a comparison chart between California, Texas, Florida, and New York. And it looks like, even though California is the largest state, Texas, Florida, and New York are comparable in size, and it looks like Texas and Florida seem to be doing the best. They have a balanced budget, and their percentages of sick people seem to be the lowest. Now, New York, with about 19,500,000 people, they have the highest percentage of people who are dying from coronavirus. They have a 0.1399% of people dying, whereas in California it's 0.0071%, which is less than 1/100th% of people dying who contract COVID. So I'm looking at it and I'm wondering if it's now more of an economic thing than really the sickness as bad as it is. And I think it's because as soon as we realized how bad COVID was, I think there was a lot of activity and, getting people protected across the country, and now it looks like it's getting under control.
Okay, Lorraine, I appreciate it. I'll have you back on again. That was Lorraine Woodwark with the Attorneys for a Secure America. This is the Naked Truth Report. And I'm your host, Kathleen Wells. I'll see you next week. Bye.